Have you ever had to use a fire extinguisher? Did you know that there's different types of extinguishers? Well, there's actually quite a few. Throughout this presentation, we're going to go over a couple different things. We're going to go over what's needed to sustain a fire, the different classifications of fires, the different types of extinguishers, and how to utilize those extinguishers. My name's Andrew Angeloni. I'm a firefighter paramedic for Indian River County Fire Rescue. Hopefully you never have to utilize this information, but someday if you need it, at least you'll know how to use it. So the main points we're going to go over is what a fire tetrahedron is, the different classifications of fire, the different types of extinguishers, and how to utilize an extinguisher. To begin, I would like to explain what is required to sustain a fire. So this is the fire tetrahedron. You're going to need 4 elements to sustain a fire: a fuel or a reducing agent, an oxidizing agent, typically oxygen. You're going to need heat, and a self-sustaining, uninhibited chemical chain reaction. All 4 elements are required in a specific ratio to sustain a fire. Fires are extinguished by removing any one or more of the 4 elements required in the tetrahedron. When all 4 elements are required and a fire occurs, that fire can be classified into one of 5 classifications. So you have a Class A fire, which is ordinary combustibles. It's going to be things like wood, paper, cloth, trees, grass. You have a Class B fire, which is flammable and combustible liquids, such as gasoline, diesel, alcohol, mineral spirits. A Class C fire, which is charged electrical equipment. What makes a Class C fire unique is once it's not charged, it then gets put into either a Class A or B, typically, depending on what is burning. Class D fires are combustible metals. Those are going to be metals such as aluminum, magnesium, potassium, lithium. Class K fires are kitchen fires. Typically, it's an industrial kitchen. So it's going to be fires that occur in like a deep fryer or lots of oils and greases. Here's just a little chart showing you the different classifications. These are the different symbols of the classifications and what they are and typical examples. So now we're going to go over types of extinguishers. Now that we have a base knowledge of the different types of classifications, next we're going to go over the types of extinguishers and the typical chemical agents used in those extinguishers. When you use an extinguisher, that extinguisher acts on one of 4 of these properties. So it's either going to smother, which means it's taking the oxidizer, oxygen, out of the equation. It's going to cool the fire, reducing the temperature. It's going to break the chemical chain reaction, or it's going to cause saponification, which is a form, it takes the oxygen away from the fire by forming a thick foam substance like on top of the fire, blanketing it. So, some typical extinguishing agents and extinguishers they're used in. We have water. That's going to be most commonly found in a stored pressure water can. Those are going to be used for Class A fires, and that works by cooling the fire. We have dry chemical extinguishers. This is going to be your most common extinguisher you see. It's called a multi-purpose dry chemical extinguisher, or an ABC extinguisher, because it can be utilized on Class A, B, and C fires. The chemical inside of it most commonly is monoammonium phosphate. There's also another type of dry chemical extinguisher utilized for B and C fires, and that typically has sodium bicarbonate, potassium bicarbonate, and some other chemicals in it. There are clean agent extinguishers. That just means that they don't leave any residue. Clean agent extinguishers can be used on A, B, and C fires, typically on a Class C fire, due to it not leaving any residue. They're also called halon extinguishers because they're halogenated hydrocarbons. There's 2 types. There's halon 1211, which is bromochloro-difluoromethane, and there's halon 1301, which is bromotrifluoromethane. Those are just the chemicals used in it. It works by displacing the oxygen in the environment, breaking the chemical chain reaction, It also cools the fire. There's CO2 extinguishers or carbon dioxide. Those are utilized on Class B and C fires. They're easily identified by having a large bell, and they typically have no gauge. They work by smothering the fire and excluding the oxygen from the atmosphere. We have dry powder fires. Those are used on Class D fires, those combustible metals. They work by applying enough powder to create a crust over the combustible metal or a smothering blanket of dry powder. Wet chemical extinguishers, those are the ones utilized on Class K fires. They're going to be most commonly found in an industrial kitchen. The chemical inside of that is potassium citrate, and it causes saponification, which creates that foamy substance over the oils. And lastly, there are AFFF extinguishers, aqueous film forming foam. Those are going to be primarily used on Class B. Some manufacturers advertise it as useful on Class A fires as well. It creates a foam over the fuel. AFFF extinguisher should be allowed to rain down on the oils burning. You don't want to spray it directly at it as to not spread the fuel. And these extinguishers have an air aspirating foam nozzle. This is a list of the different types of agents, their primary method of breaking the tetrahedron, and their secondary methods. It's always recommended that your extinguishers are inspected annually. Now that we know the different types of extinguishers, here's how most commonly they're used. So we have the pass method. P, you're going to pull the pin, breaking that thin wire. A, you're going to aim the nozzle at the base of the fire, squeezing the handles together, releasing the agent, and sweeping back and forth at the base of the fire. If the fire reignites, we're going to repeat 2 to 4 times. I know that was a lot of information on such a short period of time, but to sum things up, the main points I want you to take away from this presentation are the different classifications of fire so that you're able to appropriately select the right extinguisher, the ability to recognize what type of material is burning, correctly identifying the proper extinguisher to use, as I said, and how to use that extinguisher. Pass, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Thank you.